were always surrounded by the most exotic looking people, like an incredible string band concert. These people you'd never seen in your life would come out the woodwork. You think, where do they live? People in velvet clothes, with big lacy collars, people who look like Charles I. I mean, Christ, what do they do during the day? Are they under the bed, waiting for incredible string band or Grateful Dead concerts to come to town? Crushed velvet people.
Earth, water, fire and air met together in a garden fair. Earth, water, fire and air met together in a garden fair.
My name is Robin Williamson, genius of this parish. How do you do?
Earth, water, fire and air.
My name is Mike Harron. I come from Edinburgh, and I'm very pleased to meet you all.
If you answer this riddle, if you answer this riddle, you'll never begin.
I thought, oh my God, these are the people I've been looking for. You know, I was creeping around in cowboy boots, as I still do. But, you know, I wanted to be hairy and exotic and interesting. And there they were.
And here they are together again. 23 years after they last played together, Robin Williamson and Mike Harron at a sell-out concert.
So we thought we'd start off with a song we used to do a long time ago.
The Incredible String Band were without doubt one of the most innovative bands of the 1960s. Their unique fusion of folk and rock blazed a trail through the psychedelic 60s to Woodstock and beyond. A list of their admirers reads like a roll call for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin.
Who's that knocking on my door? Can't see no one right now. Got my baby here by me. Can't stop, no, not now. Oh, come a little closer to my breast.
Many in this audience were from a core group of loyal fans who, through the years of separation, have kept the faith and wouldn't have missed this for the world.
And Robin came out, and he's like a god. But then, of course, when he spoke, it was so down to earth and very nice. And it was pretentious. It's really nice to be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you know, and it'd be really nice if you just sort of maybe turned to the person next to you and said hi. And everyone did, hi. So we're all bonding, you know, and for a moment, and that sound, and it is pretentious, it's dead corny. And did it work?
Due to your face when you turn to go, but I see
they're part of my life, part of a very happy time. Mick and I liked them very much. In that period, whenever it was, sort of 67, 68, that sort of bit, that was the first time I heard anybody sound like that. I don't know, it was a charming, charming time. I felt they'd made that record just for me.
First girl I loved, time has come, I will sing this sad goodbye song when I was...
Robert Plant, I interviewed him once, and he said that when Led Zeppelin started, he and Jimmy Page were obviously great folk enthusiasts, and Led Zeppelin are just as much a folk group as they were a blues group, so they'd simply bought a copy of The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter and then simply followed the instructions.
Oh, the teen, what you been doing? Oh, the teachers, what you been doing?
I suppose people now would say it was like psychedelic folk rock, but we never really thought of that. You know, we were just doing what we fancied doing, and it just got drawn into what was acceptable for the times, you know, and it became that part of a movement of some kind.
If you play two notes that are quite close together on a keyboard, you'll find that they set off a very high vibration, so they sort of knock against each other. And me and Mike, you know, used to work that way because we came from such totally different points of view.
To a place where the man can be free as the wind, as wild as the huskies cry. Now winter is nigh, let us fly to my log cabin home in the sky.
Early in the 60s, Robin had started doing the rounds of Scotland's folk clubs and pubs. In '65, he got together with banjo player Clive Palmer. The duo became a trio when joined by guitarist Mike Harron. Soon they were playing at Clive's incredible folk club.
What can only be described as an all-night shebeen, really, in in the top floor of a disused department store in Solihull Street, where you used to start at midnight on Saturday night and run till 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
You got into an elevator and there was no stairs up to it, so it couldn't get fire brigade permission. You had to, so it was illegal. It was a real sweatbox, and it was brilliant.
My pocket's empty, baby.
But the most wonderful thing about it was that you had all the hairy people and the beautiful hippie people, but you also had the Glasgow people who had been to the dancing or been out for a drink. They're all like, hey, mob, you know. And they mixed brilliantly, and nobody could ask you outside for a smack in the mouth because you couldn't get outside. You had to wait for the lift, you know.
Back again.
We were doing a sort of gypsy vaudeville jug band Celtic mixture, and then we started writing songs vaguely in that vein.
I was actually working in an accountant's office, and very kind of straight, and living with my parents, and playing in rock bands. And Robin was really a fully fledged beatnik at that time, so it was like he introduced me to that kind of world of whitewashed rooms and strings of garlic and books of Jack Kerouac on the table, that kind of stuff. And so it was he kind of interested me in a lot of kind of artistic things like that hadn't really touched me in the rock scene or in the accountant's office.
I'll sing you this October song. I never wrote a song before it. The words and tune are none of my own, but my joys and sorrows bore it.
Joe Boyd, then a producer for Elektra, heard of this sensational young band and turned up at the club the very night the police closed it as a fire hazard. They met up at the house the band were living in outside Glasgow.
I had an incredible Sunday afternoon there, and Mike and Robin and Clive played me a lot of songs, and they gave me a tape which they'd made, which I took back to London, and I played it to Jack Holtzman, who was the president of Elektra. And when he heard October's song, it sort of knocked him back a bit, and he said, that's quite a good song. And so I got the green light to do a record as long as it didn't cost more than, I think, £150.
Beside the sea, the brambly briars, in the still of evening.
It was all live, basically. I don't think we did any overdubs, or very, very few. It was just, we just performed the songs and recorded them. And the songs, I just loved the songs. It was just like eating candy, you know, to mix it, to record it. It was just, everyone was juicy and rich and just full of great lyrics and great singing and harmonies and everything. So that was just fun to do.
After the first record, Clive went to Afghanistan, and I thought I'd always wanted to go to Morocco, so I'll go, you know. So we went to Morocco, and I got a variety of instruments there. I intended never to return to Britain, really. I intended to stay there, and I had this idea that I would stay there in some sort of garden under a tree somewhere and study Arabic. That's about as clear as I'd got my plan for life, really, was sit under a tree somewhere and study Arabic flute. I thought that sounded like a great idea, and why not have a go? So I set off to Fez and did just that.
Love means the God.
Robin returned to pick up again with the ISB. Clive didn't, preferring more traditional folk to the new psychedelic folk rock that Mike and Robin were starting to create. The duo became a trio again when Licorice McKechnie, Licky, joined the band. Soon after, it became a quartet when Rose Simpson joined, appearing on stage with them soon after tuning in, turning on and dropping out of university.
Suddenly this vision appeared in the refectory. I think it was breakfast time, and this walked in, and I mean, everyone was going, ah, and it was Robin in full sort of flower power, you know, floating through the refectory, sort of incense smells and things dangling and floating, and I I didn't really have anything that could possibly dress up in to go along with what he looked like, you know. The only thing I had was a dressing gown, which I got in a jumble sale in Harrogate, which was actually very handy because it was one of those sort of Indian print things, you know. So I actually did go down to London on the train in my dressing gown. It's the only thing I can think of at the time. It looked all right, you know, it looked quite normal for the time, really.
It was really more in the sense of friendship rather than high degrees of musical ability. One obviously could have hired a couple of musicians or got together with some musicians that were just musicians, but the notion was to do it in a kind of a friendly, sort of relaxed sort of way.
And somewhere in my mind there is a painting box.
Licorice was always on the road with us. She had this quirky voice that both of them liked. As she became more involved and started playing percussion and things, I think Mike didn't like the idea, in a way, of being outnumbered. Rose told me that, you know, Mike came home one day after Robin had basically said Licorice is going to come on stage on the next tour and be part of the group on stage. You know, Mike came home with a bass and shoved it in Rose's hand and said, "Learn this."
It was like being landed on Mars. I mean, for me, it was literally about, I didn't know any of the people. I had never met people like this. I didn't know what on earth anything was about it. And so you just bumble along and, smile and say hello and do whatever comes to hand. And if someone gives you something, you ring it or hit it or whatever seems the right thing to do with it, and just go along with it, really.
Oh, they understood that you'd leave when your ship come by, and I fully understood.
You can't say, oh, I'm only influenced by kind of Abyssinian music because I listened to an LP of that or something, and I'm not influenced by all the pop music I hear on the wireless when I happen to be sitting in a cafe and there's something playing, or everything that you hear gets in there somewhere.
Sometimes songs are about things that have happened to you, and sometimes songs are about things that you would like to make happen or like to see happen, or they're fantasy songs that you make up. Or else they're songs that just kind of visit themselves upon you like dreams.
My cave was bright with silky gems that gave the stars like diadems. Silver lost, buried gold, such was my home in days of old. Such was my...
There's something extraordinary when you, from my background of listening to these extraordinary lyrics about people being stabbed with a sword of willow, and it was just, what? What? And Robin's singing then was just to die for, from incredible depths to incredible heights. And then he always had a lovely, lovely sense of comedy. I hear my mother calling and I must be on my way. In the middle of it all, he would become music hall and wouldn't take it seriously. And then staggering musicianship, but just as a throwaway.
In the early days, Mike and Robin used to tear each other's songs to bits. I mean, they would be very critical of each other and argue a lot and be very intent on imposing their own stamp on each other's songs. If a Robin song was going to enter the ISB repertoire, by God, Mike was going to make people remember the sitar part. And vice versa. And there was a very, very healthy level of competitiveness I always felt.
The ISB were always about more than just the music, and their next departure was a film. In early 1968, they'd all moved to a commune in Penwern in the west of Wales, and it was around there that Be Glad, for the Song Has No Ending was shot. They were joined there by the members of an experimental dance troupe called Stone Monkey, led by Malcolm the Maestro.
It's like the summer was beautiful, and there were kind of aliens in the sky every night, and it was fantastic. And I had a great time that summer. It was very, very hippie-ish, I have to say, and wonderfully sort of mad. In the middle of all this Joe Boyd announces that we're going to make a film at Penwern, and they wanted Stone Monkey to be part of this film, and we'd be playing sort of stupid things like kind of pirates and birds and all sorts of things. I blacked my face up and played this kind of mystical Herne the Hunter with horns and stuff. We had this beautiful sort of standing stone just up the hill from us, and the three fates did a sort of dance around it, and it was all kind of crazy.
It was tipping it down most of the time. I had these blessed false eyelashes on that were getting in my eyes. I got conjunctivitis. It was just a nightmare. I mean, I can't describe it any other way. It was just a total nightmare.
I remember one incident in which there's a long shot of Rakis running through a field chasing a giant bird. As he's running along, he starts to sort of hold his trousers up, because he knows if he lets go, his whole trousers are going to collapse and fall down. Of course they do, and he falls flat on his face. No one really knows that except me, because I was the one being chased.
I think if I was to do such a thing now, I would plan it in a way, but in those ways, things were very, very rarely planned at all. They were more like allowed to happen in some way, which was its charm.
My recollection is that the scene in the cave when Mike and Robin are all dressed up and he's incredible, which I remember filming in some tiny little cupboard in a room in Wales, was wonderful.
Robin had this talent for doing that kind of audience-involving things on stage and various kind of mime poetry kind of things. That wasn't really my thing, but I loved to see Robin do it. So a lot of the kind of theatrical stuff on the film Be Glad is kind of his baby, really, if you like. And I'm just kind of going along for the ride because it's nice to see him do it, but it's not something that I can do myself, really. I'm really just more a boring old songwriter.
Obviously, there's things about my own past that I think are good, and there's things that I think could have been done better. And there's a few things there that could have been done a wee bit better, let's face it, you know.
You know, they got to a period where I was lost. I thought, what the hell is this now? Oh! I think you've left me behind. But I still loved it. I was still determined to be carried along by it, because it was so wonderful compared to everything else I was listening to.
It only seems fair to clear up this evolution problem once and for all.
You see this lady sheep?
It's really your mummy.
I went to see him in Glasgow, and this guy, Kenny somebody, says, try these, and he gave me 3 things. I remember a green one and a yellow one. I can't remember what the other one. I went, sure, this is the trendiest thing on earth. I'm into this. And I went and I went to see the incredible string band. I don't know what it was I took. I was brainless watching them running about, and I thought it was the drugs. But on reflection, I think maybe nothing happened. Maybe they were smarties. The guys were they were doing that stuff, the inscrutable Buffalo Man. And they're running about with false faces and a bucket of water and a glockenspiel thing where you hit it and go. I thought, my God, these pills are good. The people are leaping around.
Woodstock is kind of a painful memory.
Well, it was described in advance as a little upstate folk festival. A little upstate folk festival. We were strapped in with John Sebastian and Ravi Shankar. And as the plane banked round, you could see through the open side of the plane little dots all the way to the horizon. These were heads all the way to the horizon. And landing then was like landing in the middle of a good-sized city. It was sunny when we arrived. Of course, it started raining later.
Scheduled to appear in the Friday night acoustic slot with Melanie, John Sebastian, Joan Baez, the rain caused a huge problem. The band had been increasingly electrifying their instruments and feared that it'd be dangerous to play with only the flimsiest of cover from the rain.
And I said, why don't you just strip down and just go on with just the acoustic instruments, just do it with the guitars. And Mike and Robin said, oh, no, we can't. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. How are we going to do this song? We can't do it without. And obviously, we're all nervous. We had a nightmare, spent the night in a tent, and went on a baking hot Saturday afternoon right after Canned Heat. You know, by which time everybody was just completely out of their heads on more aggressive drugs, and the atmosphere was just completely different. I mean, what people wanted was to boogie in the mud. And the incredible string band came out and played well, and everybody just went,
I swear you have the power, as the angels do. Spread out your fingers and make all things new. Change the world.
It was just millions of people sitting in the mud and us on this stage kind of twinkling away at instruments, and we didn't really make much impact. In fact, we didn't make it to any of the Woodstock films. I think they're up to about Woodstock 5 or something now, and still no sign of us. So that's telling you something.
There are very few things in my life that I second guess. That's one of those moments, is saying, if I'd only just kicked them in the butt and said, just get on stage, just do it, this is it, there's no other chance. But there you go.
Stanley, got it? Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Woodstock was the end of the 60s dream. We'd all moved on. The band too had moved on to a row of cottages in Scotland. Joe Boyd was no longer manager, Rose had left, and Malcolm had become a band member.
Saddest, just one day past.
And I said, well, just a minute, you know, I'm an actor, I'm a dancer, I don't know how to play any instruments. And I was taught how to play bouzouki, mandolin, guitar, percussion, keyboard.
As time went on, they involved more and more people in a very democratic way in what they were doing. To me, unless it's, you know, way out in the wilderness around a campfire, if you're not great, shut up, is my view. And Mike and Robin are great. And those people weren't great genius musicians. They were just people who had a bit of style and a bit of flair or whatever.
The real hardcore fans, like myself, felt actually that, no disrespect to the great Malcolm, who wrote some very good songs, but this was the beginning of the end. That this group probably couldn't resolve the political and artistic tensions between them, Robin and Mike, and had brought in this guy that they could both relate to in a way that would also help their live performance.
Robin was being pushed in a position where he couldn't really express himself because we were doing these gigs like Second on the Bill to Three Dog Night. And it was the beginning of stadium rock, if you like. And the string band didn't really work in that context. And so I think that's really how the band broke up in the end, was that we'd grown away from what we were good at. The accent on intimate involvement with the audience and a kind of shared evening, you know, a kind of hippie-ish 60s kind of shared experience.
And what of the years since the breakup? Mike and Robin have both pursued solo careers. Rose became mayoress of Aberystwyth. Licorice mysteriously disappeared into the Arizona desert and has not been heard of since. And why the reunion after all this time? Mike and Robin wanted to scotch a rumour, started in a Guardian article by Joe Boyd, that they haven't spoken to each other since the breakup.
Whisper it.
Neither of us are the same people that we were. And it's very hard and embarrassing to retrace your steps, I think, really. I've never wanted to do it. But I am very pleased to be having an evening playing some of the old songs, some of the new songs.
My friend, song there is.
People still come up and say, "You changed my life." I didn't change anyone's life. I don't know what you call it, window dressing or background, or I was part of it, yes. But, I mean, it was Mike and Robin that did the life-changing, and they did. Those enormous personalities. It was pretty good, really.
Sunday catnaps, like lips put up to kiss. Born in the house where the doors shut tight, shadowy fingers.
I felt I was understanding their search along with me. They made the search interesting, challenging, and exciting and enthralling. At the same time, I think the people that didn't like them thought they were the most pretentious, twee, silly little hippy-dippy, flying teapot type band, you know, and that's cool, that's fine. I just feel sorry for them, to be honest.
Now there comes a time to every man when he must turn his back on the ground. When the glare of the lights gets much too bright and the music plays too loud.
Both Mike and I had a very sincere attitude, trying to do something genuinely wonderful, trying to remind people that life is wonderful, that it's great to be alive, and that life is a mystery, trying to remind people of those things. And the warmth that we got back, you know, reminded me that a lot of love was generated, a lot of affection was generated, you know, and that's very nice.
Small waves and the thunder be my pillow on the gleaming waters.
There's something about it, there's heart in it, and it's charming. I loved those songs. It just brought back all those memories of sort of tripping with my lover and having a wonderful time.
All this world is but a play, be now the joyful player.
The songs still make sense to me. Come a little closer to my breast. I'll tell you that you are the one I really love the best. And it's just, I love it. And deep inside my mind, there is a painting box. It means as much to me today as it meant then, you know. And there'll be songs about caterpillars and all that. My children still love it. God, I love them. I love them to this day.
Looks like the nights roll down. The rest you can do is rely on me. Goes only just until the dawn. Oh, come a little closer to my breast. Tell you that you're the one I really love the best, and you don't have to worry about any of the rest. Everything's fine.